normal chat. Okay, so here we are on Adventure and Arb. My name's Tom Robinson. I am the host of Adventure and Arb. This is our first attempt at what is essentially a podcast slash YouTube clip.
Yeah, I think it's a fair way to put it.
Yeah, so this is Wesley Hall.
Nice to meet the world.
Long-time friend and peer at Myerscough when we were doing a foundation degree in arboriculture, and the Arb part of Adventure and Arb, and is now a lecturer at Myerscough.
Yep, lecturer at further education, teaching a range of topics and courses for arboriculture.
Yeah.
Very much heavy on the theory bent though. Do occasionally step into doing practicals, but I'm more about trying to teach people's awareness of trees, the health, the benefits.
So what sort of age range are you teaching?
Everything from 16 years of age up to, I think our oldest student that we've had on the course so far has been about 56 years of age.
56, there we go.
So yeah, we've got a healthy range there.
So it's a level 3, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that still relevant?
Yeah.
Because I actually did this course that Wesley teaches when I was, I'd been 17, 18, 19, and that was a level 3 back then. And that's what introduced me into arboriculture, and so for the past decade I've dipped in about both tree surgery and then doing the degree. I went on to consultancy, and now I'm doing podcasts, which is obviously the only logical.
it makes no sense. That's what Arb has a tendency to do to you. It catapults you in directions you never expected your life was going to take.
Well, I have to say about arboriculture that it's one of the most unusual areas.
Yeah.
Unusual fields. I don't think your average Joe often ends up in arboriculture.
I don't think people know what it is.
No, well, yeah, to be fair, if you're watching this and you haven't yet to learn what arboriculture is, arboriculture is Latin, and it's basically the cultivation of trees. So if you imagine the cultivation, management and trees, is that fair?
Yeah, I'd say a fair definition of somebody who studies arboriculture or is into arboriculture or class themselves an arboriculturalist is simply somebody who is interested in the health and maintenance of trees.
Yeah, precisely. I think sometimes it's useful to people who don't know to compare it to forestry, which is its close cousin and where it was sort of born from. So forestry is you're looking at a collection of trees as a crop.
Yeah, very much timber products.
Yeah,
very
exactly.
Much.
So you're managing those trees in order to harvest them as a crop, and it's taken many forms in history. I suppose forestry could have been individual coppice stools and things
it was like
that.
an advancement of woodland management, really, was
Yeah,
forestry.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
that development beyond simply having small pieces of land to having large swathes
And it's like
of
making
very
it a
productive-
resource.
Yeah, a commercial resource, very much of that. I think it's where the term forestry came. Not to be confused with what a forest is.
No, not at all.
Which is always different.
That's an interesting topic because it's not quite a woodland either. So we'll not go too far into the realm of
It's rabbit holes.
That
One
rabbit
rabbit
hole,
hole
yeah.
after another.
But basically, arboriculture is you're more looking at a tree as an individual organism, its species, its height, its various measurements, and what it is. In the same way you would look at a mammal, a human, as an individual, one individual and another. It's kind of how arboriculture is with trees. You get to know trees on an individual level.
Yeah.
I'd say that's fair.
I'd say it is. I'd say you one of the key problems you have with it, and also one of the greatest strengths of arboriculture, it's hard to pin down. It's like you can argue that if you want to get stuck into just the study of the names and species and genera of plants, you are very much looking at botany.
Yeah.
And botany's the key skill there. If you are looking at it from the point of view of trees, their life cycles, their dating, their morphology, their physiological traits, you're going into dendrology. Dendrology being tree study.
Yeah, that's specific to that. That's an aging tree aging.
Yeah, it is. It's like you have dendrochronology, which is all about the historical.
And we're going down into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, but I think it's key for like audiences, anybody listening in to this, to realise that if you want to get into this subject, be prepared to have many paths open to you, and to think it might change my views on what I would consider a pathway of a career in this, or even just a hobby.
Completely.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of obviously horticulture. So horticulture you probably know as plants in general, the growth of plants in general. Whereas arboriculture, I like to say, I mean, it's horrendously corny, but it's a branch of horticulture, you know. It's actually a more specific branch of horticulture, which again focuses on trees, and you can go on for hours for what exactly defines a tree.
We can hedge our bets with it, can't we?
We'll leave it out. That's another great part of arboriculture, is we always have tree puns. We're all a bit barking mad.
It can be a bit prickly with the thorny subjects that it can be, but you know, it's.
I like to think of a tree as a woody plant, and that's, for me, it's always been easiest to keep it that simple. There are grey areas, and nothing is simple in life, because as soon as you start studying the natural environment, it's not simple.
Opens your eyes, doesn't it, to what's going on around us very much all the time. It's like I have to say, I mean, I came to the subject completely.
How long ago now did you enter the subject?
Literally 4.5 years ago, it would have been. Yeah,
so
4.5.
What bumbling path led you? This is always what I find interesting about arboriculture and the people in it, is that the strange bumbling paths that people end up in arboriculture.
Nobody seems to take a set route. Nobody goes.
Well, no one when they're 4 years old goes, I want to be an arboriculturist.
I want to run a woodland. Some people think it, but it's usually a fantasy in the same sense as I want to be an astronaut. You know, I want to go and be a fireman mum.
I want to live in the woods in a log cabin. That was mine when I was younger, and I think that probably helped lead me there. But I didn't even know what arboriculture was until I was on the course.
No, I did the same thing. I think the path that took me to it was a rejection, very much a rejection of wanting to be involved in mainstream society. It's not like, don't get me wrong, I've no hermitization fantasies, I've no urge to suddenly become. I was going to say, that does seem to be quite common. But I did want to get away from the idea of just being a 9 to 5 wage slave at a computer screen and spending all my days doing something I had no care for, no passion. And I didn't see a future in it. I just saw an endless repetition of the same day over and over, very much like Groundhog Day.
Yeah. Well, I can.
Poughkeepsie Phil, he's still always about in my mind. But
well, I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty much the same story for me. Like, I mean, I was younger and I had less life experience, but I did not know what I wanted to do coming out of school. All my friends went to university. I didn't, because I had no faith in the path that was being sold to me personally.
Yeah, you are sold one direction when you leave school. It's very much a case of, if you're bright academically, you're going to go do A-levels and you'll choose a university subject, a degree that will be one of probably a handful of 5 or 6 that suggested. And
what in that idea that's sold to you through education, what is the measure of success in that world? You know, how would you describe the measure of success as told to us growing up?
Yeah, that's one of the things. I think the measure of success is very much a wealth-based success. It's simply a case of you will fit one of society's pre-prescribed lots in life. You are physically.
You already described it. A-levels, university,
or you'll get a vocation. And you will get a vocation in usually something like a manual trade.
Yeah, which I think is actually, you know, it was a blessing that I fell into it, because I think a vocation, a trade, has given me something to fall back on when I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I've been in the world of arboriculture for 10 years now, and yet at no point really was it the be-all and end-all for me. You know, it wasn't, I want nothing more than to be this. I just didn't know what to do. I ended up getting this trade. I ended up building a skill. And I've kind of come back to it, because sometimes you leave that world and you come back and you smell the fresh air again, and you're outside, you're with trees.
Well, what was it for you, Tom, that actually pushed you into choosing arboriculture when you left from school? And you
it was literally, my dad I spent a full year doing nothing after I left school, and my dad couldn't handle it. So when the next year came up, he said, "You're doing something. Try Myerscough. It looks a bit different." You know, bless him, he didn't have a clue what to do with me. I wanted to go and do blacksmithing. I saw people climbing trees, and I thought, that's it.
That sounds like the one you'll go for.
That'll do.
Yeah, and usually that's how most people get suckered into the world of it. Where they see a tree surgeon, they will see. Nowadays, it will either be they'll go on YouTube, they'll see people chopping down trees, big trees in the States or in Canada. They'll see them climbing trees.
Well, yeah, what were those programs?
And hunting.
I can't remember the names of them, but they got quite popular, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, and they still are. I mean, you go on YouTube, it's easy enough to find them, like with adventure sports, action, camera, adverts. You know,
I'd say, I think a tree surgeon, like the watchers, if anyone is watching.
Yeah, you never know. There might be somebody out there.
The viewer, if you're watching this crazy world of arboriculture, you most likely have heard of tree surgery more than any other term that relates to our world, because it's like the common name for the sort of soldier of arboriculture.
Yeah, for the grunt work at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that, because I think
It's highly skilled bloody work.
Yeah, it really
and
is.
it's dangerous, and it's almost an art, and I'd say it's one of the most underappreciated. You know, there's so many tradesmen around in that world, and it's got a bit of a bad rap, really. But
it does, and that comes down to a lot of the misunderstanding of the profession. You have so many people being able to say, I can go down to the local B&Q or the local home base, or I suppose like any international viewers, it'd be places like Walmart or, you know, Target or Best Buy, things like that, and buy a home chainsaw, and even a slightly better industrial chainsaw, and they'll go and they'll get a set of ladders and they'll go up a tree and they'll start chopping it down.
They'll do what kind of logically makes sense.
What they think they want to see. Either let's take the tree down, or I don't like that branch there because that's blocking my window, or it's interfering with the gutters. So they'll do the work, and therein lies the crucial problem. It's not well regulated.
No.
Legally, you don't need a qualification in arboriculture.
Do you still need
to
a
do
qualification to purchase a top-handled chainsaw?
It's a bit of a funny one, that legally you don't need the qualification. However, professionally, most suppliers will ask to see proof that you have a chainsaw from a rope and harness MPTC, or chainsaw from a rope and harness with free-fall techniques, to give it its full name. But that's the misconception everybody has. They think that these qualifications are a legal requirement, and they are not. That's all they are.
It's a strange industry, and like I say, there's lots of unique characters in it, and that's one of the reasons I really wanted to push this idea, because I have met some of the most unique, craziest, and I mean, you have to be a bit crazy to get into something where the chances are at some point you're going to be in the top of a tree while the wind blows and the branches rock from side to side, and you wonder, you know,
best part 20 metres up in the air.
Yeah. I mean, but that's it, and it's usually, like you said, it's unconventional.
Building nearly.
Well, it attracts people who don't like the conventional way. It attracts people who aren't afraid of hard work, but they don't want to give up that hard work for something they don't believe in.
Yeah.
It just attracts people of interesting character, and
it's people who want freedom, I think, as well. The job seems to, doesn't matter which job role you go into, whether you're being a tree surgeon, a ground worker, an orchard manager maybe, or even a nurseryman, or a consultant and someone who does surveys and risk reports. The job has this inherent emphasis on your choice, your timescales, your open expanse, your freedom. You be that either the moments you have away from everyone up in a tree.
Yeah, well, that alone, I mean, it's quite an independent job, really. I mean, you're up in the tree. If you're working up in a tree, you should always have a second person with you, and that's called usually a groundsman, or on bigger jobs, it's a second climber.
Yeah.
And that person's job is to be your eyes on the ground. I always think that's the most important thing. Most people think, it's to clear away the stuff, it's to clear that. No, for me, it was always that when I was in the crown of a tree, if you imagine a big tall tree and you're up there, you're looking from the inside out, trying to make this big thing look a certain way.
Yeah,
And you can only see it from. It's like a hairdresser cutting the hair from in your scalp.
Yeah, it'd almost be a bit like. Just might be able to show the viewers a little bit of something. We, coincidentally enough, have a bit of a tree inside the place that we're doing the filming.
Do we know what species this is, Wes? I think I can make a good guess.
Prunus, I believe.
I
Cherry.
believe so.
Yeah. So we've got a nice common cherry, typical garden tree you might see. And the angles you guys can only see this from would give you only certain inclinations as to how you'd best deal with it. Say you need to remove a branch or to be able to obviously do pruning work.
That might be a good idea to have brought an actual specimen in for us, because you can explain so much with a small branch, can't you?
Yeah, you can. And, the point I was going to make is, it's like Tom was saying, you can't see everything from when you're up in the tree doing the work, so that person on the ground is your second set of eyes to give you this three-dimensional space before you do any pruning works or any surgery.
And that person, this is, having an interview with someone who lectures, especially, I think the majority were probably 17 to 21,
16-year-olds to about 21 is the bulk age range that we have and through the doors.
From that level 3 course, the majority are going to go out and be tree surgeons.
Yeah, very much so.
Whether they progress later on, is entirely, that's a different story. But they're going to go out leaving that with a good basic knowledge on the ideal person leaving can handle themselves in a tree. They can cut and they can process trees from taking it off the crown to the ground to away, and they can describe what the tree is. They know the basic knowledge of these trees, and what they're basically set up to do, in my opinion of how it probably should work, is they're set up to join a tree team. And they're set up to join a tree team, in my opinion, as the groundsman, as the person, as the eyes on the floor, and gradually
learn the craft, learn the experience.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit like a modern apprenticeship, really, but with a bit of a head start rather than 10 years. It doesn't mean that people don't still do the apprenticeship. Some people don't.
Yeah, the apprenticeship side of it is still very popular with people who otherwise the academic route, the traditional academic route, the exams or
some of the
assessment work.
In Australia, he could possibly watch this. I have got him on Facebook. A shout out to a guy called Michael Pawson. He was from the UK and he'd never done any of the courses, but he was probably the best tree surgeon I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
But he was a young lad, he went out with his dad, I think it was probably like his dad's mate.
Yeah, so he's done it from young lad. Been exposed to the culture.
I would say he's had to work longer and harder to earn his rightful position. I think he's a supervisor now. Whereas he could have probably been the supervisor well before I met him, But I think maybe not having the qualification held him back.
I wonder about that, because this is the thing, right? The route through education, if any of you out there are thinking of taking up arboriculture as a trade, a craft, or just out of curiosity to learn. So you start out, normally for someone with no background knowledge in it, they've maybe just done a quick Google search and found out what being an arborist or a tree surgeon involves. You normally start out with a level 2 qualification, formally. And that will give you your basic tickets for how to use a wood chipper. Tickets, just to clarify, they are a practical competency certificate that you get given to say that, you've been trained on how to use a piece of machinery and you're not going to kill yourself with it. Or break the machine quickly. You should be able to know how to deal with it.
I think competence
competence is the key word, isn't it?
You're not an expert, but you are competent.
Yeah. And you get that, you get your chainsaw cross-cutting and maintenance, and you're also getting used to stun ground around climbing an aerial rescue, how to access a tree from a rope and harness, but also how to perform a safe rescue on someone if they get into a difficulty.
That's really important.
It's huge, because at the end of the day, it's like Tom was saying before, the industry is, I think, consistently ranked in the top 10 most dangerous jobs in the whole world.
Yeah, you can imagine.
And I think it regularly hits the top 5, because normally if something goes wrong for us when we're up in the tree,
It goes wrong badly.
Yeah, it's a severe problem.
It's just, you do the maths, you know, height,
height, time it takes to get down.
like deadly machine,
Yeah.
chainsaw, and, you know, unpredictable organism.
Yeah, you're dealing with a living
Weather,
organism. You don't know what it's going to do, no matter how well informed you are.
And this is, you know, you mentioned before how most people at home, like if you're watching this and maybe you've got a chainsaw of your own, or maybe you've done a bit yourself, and we said it's the logical conclusion, I think, sometimes, is to go, well, I need that tree cutting, I'm going to grab my B&Q saw, and I'm going to go out and do what I've seen on Bugs Bunny. And things, you know, I'm going to do the chop, and then see what happens.
Yeah, or get my axe out, even worse, and start hacking away at the back.
And then you get the YouTube videos where the trees go through the house and things. Now, sometimes they go right, and then probably the majority of the time there's no problem, just because of luck and because of common sense. But the difference is when it becomes a career, you're doing this every single day. And luck only holds for so long.
Yeah, it really does.
And if you're not skilled and you're not doing it properly, you're not doing it safely, it's not going to hold forever, is it?
It's the same with actually doing reduction work or any kind of clearance work on a tree's canopy or crown, with the intention of actually seeing the organism carry on living.
Yeah.
It's very easy to go up there, take off too much of a tree, reduce it heavily, and find that you've taken most of its living tissue away, you've taken most of what it uses for life. And all it takes then is a change in the climate, a particular pathogen, something like an insect or even a mammalian or vertebrates or pests, such as squirrels. They're not all fluffy. Don't love all the squirrels. They
cause a lot of damage to trees when they're adolescent. When grey squirrels, particularly in the UK, let's not go too far down here. You know, everyone loves red squirrels in the UK because they're very rare, but they're a pest in Europe. But grey squirrels in the UK, when adolescent and male, for some reason just hate trees.
Yeah, they are always stripping the bark.
The damage they
paint
put,
them.
like, I will try, if I can learn how to edit well enough, to insert a picture at this point that shows a squirrel damaged tree. You would not believe what they can do. And it's absolutely everywhere.
You just give me a brilliant idea for something that needs to be done.
Oh, go on.
Time lapse on a grey squirrel section of woodland or forest. Something
Woodland,
where we know.
You'd have to.
So you could see on various trees monitored.
You could
set
probably
a
do it
24-hour
in
time lapse.
was it Crow Wood? Where it's
Crow
everywhere.
Wood.
If you've got any trees left,
that
are squirrel damage.
There's a fair few, but they have got bad squirrel damage already existing on. But yeah, no, you know, it'd be fascinating to actually do it. Just to
it would be fascinating to see
sped
the
up.
actual damage being done, because I've never seen it being done. I've only ever seen
the
evidence of it. Because that's the thing with trees. And you said before, you know, you were talking about if you go overboard, even if you don't go too overboard with cutting a tree and you don't realise its living organism element, the chances are, and this is why skilled and well-educated, I think arboriculture is essential. Well-educated is essential because you'll understand how trees don't always like too much taken off of them. If it goes wrong, just like, use a human for instance, you chop, you're out doing a Bear Grylls adventure, you're out in the wild, and you slip and you perhaps do some great injury, you know, and the biggest threat, providing you survive that injury, the biggest threat is not the pain, it's the infection. It's
the long term after effects, isn't it?
Well, it's the potential of sepsis. You know, it's the once you've been damaged, you're very vulnerable. You know, and that's the same with trees. As soon as they're damaged, they're very vulnerable. Now with trees, unlike humans, it doesn't happen overnight.
No,
it can take 5 to 10 years.
That's the thing. You play in the waiting game with trees to find out whether something's going to affect them after you've done it. You're not going to necessarily see it over the course of 12 months or even a couple of years, 24 months. You are looking to see what's happening in the 5 or 10 year period. And you know, going back to it, I think that's one of the things people don't appreciate is that arboriculture as an industry is very young.
It is
as an actual recognised industry. It's about 50 to 60 years old.
Well, we said before,
or young, really.
We talked before about how it was born from forestry. And
which is an old discipline. No,
forestry is a very old discipline, and you can be a chartered forester. That's quite a well respected and quite old discipline. But chartered forestry has now given birth to chartered arboriculture within it.
Yeah,
it's in the same way the industry was kind of born. There was just the separation came too far where it could remain the same thing. Someone managing a plot of land to grow trees and harvest them and process them was so far removed from someone who was looking at an individual tree, its unique position in the urban environment primarily around trees and humans and people.
Yeah, very much so.
That is so removed that they couldn't remain the same.
No, and that's the thing, they didn't. If you trace back historically, people like Capability Brown, when he was doing his landscaping, he was selecting specimen trees. He was selecting from a botanical, from a horticulturalist, but also from a landscape designer's point of view, an architectural point of view. He was selecting trees for his designs that were unique, that had strong aesthetic visual qualities to them, that it could have even been...
How long, when was he doing this then?
He was doing this around the 18th century, I believe it was, if I remember correctly, and I might double check the dates on this bit could be edited.
It would be interesting.
But yeah, he was definitely Victorian times.
Well, I believe that, because I remember watching, I don't remember which film this is now. This could be edited as well, so find out which film it is.
Facts checking, definitely something you should be doing before doing live recording.
On the film... that gives me a bit of space to reflect it. On this film, it was black and white, and it was a manor house. It's quite a famous film. It might be like Gone with the Wind or something like that. And I've seen the film. It's probably not. As it's doing its introduction, it's in a grand old manor house, and the voiceover is talking about and Lord Wensleydale, and then goes through all the staff. Yeah. And then he actually says, the arboriculturalist. I remember being really shocked by that, because I was like, that's got to be an old film, that's got to be 80 years old now.
And to think they were talking and using that turn of phrase back then.
But I suppose, are we touching on where arboriculture was born? Because manor houses,
that's the problem. That's what they're doing. They've been going for a long time.
They have. Yeah, it was so fashionable.
Are ancient.
During the British Empire and its adventurous days, if you had money and you were an aristocrat and you had land, there was nothing for you to do. There was nothing, not really, unless you found a purpose. So you'd go and be an adventurer.
Or
exactly. Yeah. So if you could go and find a tree that grew in,
we're simplifying.
Absolute, in a place no one else goes to, and bring it back and cultivate it and grow it in your lovely land. People will never have seen that. What a show of, and obviously showing of wealth was a huge part of it. That's probably a big part of the origin of arboriculture, because we're maybe neglecting that side. Because we've talked a lot about tree surgery, the cutting and management of trees, but
but not the historical relevance. Yeah,
well, you mentioned it with Capability Brown.
Yeah,
the choice in the landscape is a huge part of it.
And I think that's where, again, we made some sort of earlier definitions of what being an arboriculturalist is, or what arboriculture means.
Actually, you could split those up.
Yeah, you could say that arboriculture is like a wider study.
I'll give us a refill, and you can explain.
What
is it? Arboriculture, arborist, and arboriculturist.
Yeah, okay, so all those terms, they could be interchanged, they could be grouped together. But I would personally describe myself as an arboriculturalist. I'm somebody who is passionate about the health of trees, that is interested in making sure the correct trees are imparted into the right parts of the landscape. An arborist is a more accurate term for somebody who might be classed as a tree surgeon. But an arborist is somebody who maintains and manages the health of trees. And arboriculture itself being the study of trees, but clear distinction we try to make a lot of the time is very much about the urban landscape. The urban landscape is vast. It's not just the city, it's not just the parklands that we see in the city. It can be your garden. A nice space at the back where you've taken the time to set up your decking, maybe plant a few species of trees. It should maybe be a little slice of heaven. But there is that variation and difference to be made, that distinction. And I think this is key to what we, at least that's certainly what I keep trying to soldier forward with teaching the students is that they should aspire to view themselves as being more than simply a tree surgeon, which unfortunately is the mindset most will come into the industry with.
It's true. And then the thing is, the reason why I like to separate away from tree surgery.
HD.
I think it's back on.
Yeah, it might be. I wonder if it's got like a time limit,
because that was half an hour bang on.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
yeah, there we go. There's actually a countdown timer in the bottom corner that didn't spot last time.
Okay, there you go. No, that's all right.
Format for this. I know this will have to be edited now because this is kind of a
maybe.
Well, yeah, leave it in.
I mean, it's quite fun.
Yeah, okay, no, I'll go with that. But basically, I think 30-minute snips.
Okay, well, right. Well, so
we format to go for.
On our previous session, we discussed the origins of arboriculture. We talked about where we came in from arboriculture, and now I suppose, as the host.
Yeah, you are very much the host.
I do want to ask sort of specific questions, like about now.
Go on, hot seat me.
Just sort of a quick background to the industry, and I suppose, as we broke down the terms before, there's not a huge variety of different roles within the industry you're going to be taking.
Yeah, that's the scary thing. Yeah, it gets boiled down and compressed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To just a few.
There's tree surgeon. Well, there's groundsman, tree surgeon, practical labourer, and then there is the sort of degree level consultant, or between that, like a tree surveyor who risk surveys. That can involve railway lines a lot, or traffic, or public areas. And then a consultant works in planning and development, all kinds of areas, in all fairness.
But they write your final reviews and reports on it.
Yes.
Very much.
And if you want to stereotype then, the tree surgeon is more proud of a day's graft. And I, having known from all different aspects, there is an understanding that tree surgeons have of the industry that someone who's never been in the trees won't understand. And the other side of it is consultancy. We call themselves arboriculturists. And I've also witnessed that. Very adamantly separating themselves. They're quite also sometimes some disrespect for tree surgery.
They've almost got an egalitarian aspect about them. It's a shame in ways.
The best is to find the balance of the two. The best is to respect the role of the tree surgeon and the practical, logical understanding they have, and then the real grasp of theory that a consultant has. But there's also, it's perhaps a rarer position, but I think probably one of the more fulfilling positions, and that's yours, which is to go into an education of arboriculture. So you and me did our foundation degree, which is 2 years.
Yeah, that's something probably worth pointing out. Anybody that is tuning into this from the States or any other part of the world, obviously your education system, your higher education system is different. You run different courses, you have different methods of it. Best way to think of this, foundation degree is very much the kind of like starting point. Like your first couple of years you might do on a degree program in the States, for instance.
Would they recognize bachelor's?
Yeah, bachelor's degree. That's definitely ties in with places like the States. It also ties in with Australia as well. It's a little different the way it's done, the way it's graded, and how the degrees are put together. Whereas in the UK, what you tend to find is it's just one subject. Lots of different modules, but you get one subject, one degree. Whereas from my understanding in the States, you have electives, you have majors, minors. You have to forgive me about this because I'm not 100% up to speed on the education system in the States. Maybe that's a potential role for the future, is having somebody do research for us on certain topics before we do this.
Well, we probably won't know the topic.
Exactly. Yeah, but
no, you're right.
Yeah, the key thing is though is it's high level. It's a higher education qualification, but it's not quite a full bachelor's degree. But you can take it to there. It's kind of like the start.
I think its origin came. The bachelor's degree came first, and then there was a real understanding that actually, you know, you can educate yourself at any time in your life. You can change the way you know, you can redirect yourself. But sometimes jumping straight onto a 3-year higher degree was an extreme move. Whereas a foundation degree provided that step in a much more accessible way. It also gave you the option.
It's cheaper for one thing. Back
it's
when
cheaper.
We did it.
It was 2 years long. You're joking?
Yeah, not anymore. It's now exactly the same price as a full BSc honours year.
Great, so, more debt. Well,
unfortunately, guys, anybody who wants to get into it now,
it's a year less though, so you're gonna be a few grand down.
Yeah, so. The best part of like just shy of 10 grand less debt for the year.
Good old student debt. They tell you that you never have to pay that back, right? But
well,
I tell you what they do. They don't mention is the interest. I got like a thing going through about the interest on mine. It's like 4 grand.
Oh yeah, you've gained. Mine's exactly the same. I don't earn enough to pay back yet. I earn enough to pay one of my older degrees back, but not this one.
Well, I mean,
and I've looked at my interest, and I've actually my debts continue to increase.
Yeah, mine
because,
too.
Like I said, it's interest. I think it's compounded as well. It's a horrendous rating system that they use. It's not just a flat APR.
No,
this is like some of the worst finance you can possibly take on in terms of its interest rate.
Either. So you should be This is why a foundation degree comes around, because you should be cautious about taking these steps, particularly when it's sold as you'll never have to pay this back, because that's not really how it works. Anyway.
Not to dissuade people from this, but yeah.
But it's the foundation degree at least gives you a slightly cheaper, between 1 year less.
Yeah,
and also that also opens the door then to do the next year.
It's worth mentioning as well for those. When I did my foundation degree, I did not have a strong educational background in terms of a higher education or format. I had very average high school grades.
Yeah,
I had
me too.
A little bit of college education behind me, nothing major, and it was all in vocational subjects. And I had a very peculiar 1 year art degree course qualification behind me that doesn't exist anymore. It was similar to foundation degrees back when it was done.
So you wouldn't believe
but it doesn't. Right. It's long since been.
One conversation with him before you never would have guessed that he didn't this is what I mean, like the fun people that come to our bar.
Yeah, we're oddities, aren't we?
Oddities, man. Like me, you, and Ryan. Me and you must have. You must be like me. Like I just love absorbing information.
Oh yeah.
But when it came to school, where I was told what I was mentioned, I did rubbish. Yeah. I did nothing. And when it came to my degree, I did well because I loved it.
Yeah, because
I finally was doing something I was loving. So anyway, we met on the foundation degree. Now I went on to do the 3rd year because I was loving it so much. I really, really was. I was loving the information so much. I got fascinated by the science, and just been
you did a fascinating step into your dissertation with looking at
that stemmed
DNA,
from
wasn't it?
That stemmed from that 2nd year where we explored DNA, and I just remember thinking that's not good enough. The answer was not good. Like that world. If you ever want to get something interesting, like the world of DNA and how it works, is so fascinating. But it's complex. But it's not that complex. It's not. Yeah, it's only complex because of the wording and the strangeness of it. But if you get there slowly from cell to little bit by bit by bit, and you just keep it simple, it's fascinating. But the point is I went on to do that. Wes would have come on to that as well, but
I got poached.
You got poached,
to take a position that had become vacant at the college. It was very much being approached by one of my then lecturers, who's now one of my colleagues, and in turn actually my superior, my boss. Mentioned about he thought I'd be suitable for the role. He thought I was an approachable person. I was passionate about the subject. I was getting good grades on it. So he suggested, why not? Right age range, apply for the position. Long story short, I got the position. I've now got my teaching qualification, so I've now got a foundation degree in teaching, or the equivalent thereof.
What's that qualification?
It's Cert Ed.
Cert Ed.
Yeah.
A lot of people on here will. A lot of people have got all the
We
huge
hope.
millions. all the
the
millions
listeners.
and millions of listeners.
It's
A Cert Ed is obviously it's quite a recognised, quite valuable and highly sought after as well.
Yeah, it's a requirement. If you're to teach in further education or higher education in this country, you must have a teaching qualification, and that teaching qualification is either a Cert Ed if you're undergraduate, or if you've completed, like Tom has, a BSc, you would do a PGCE.
I don't know.
Postgraduate certificate in education, rather than just
Is
a
it pretty much
certificate
the
in
same?
education. It's exactly the same. The course is the same that you study. The only difference being that a couple of your modules are marked at a slightly higher standard to match the level that you currently already have. So it's a peculiar qualification. Yeah, it's harder. You have a slightly higher word count, and you have a couple of differences to your assignments, but it's only in some of the later assignments that you do in your second year. But yeah, the peculiar thing is your final assignment that you have to do for it is graded at a level higher than what the qualification's awarded at. So my final assignment was graded at a third year level 6 qualification, even though it's a level 5 qualification when it's done. If you were PGCE, like yourself, if you'd have done it, you would have had your final assignment graded at master's qualification of level 7, whereas you currently would get a level 6 qualification, and that's what you've got. It's unusual in the structure of it, but yeah. So
that's the biggest one of it. That was
mine.
Yeah, I just really liked learning about it. All this stuff got really complicated. But now you've been. How
so
long have you been?
2.5
lecturing?
years lecturing now.
So 2.5 years
third year.
lecturing, and you now have your Cert Ed as of.
It was as of June last year, 2018. So
I was with you for a bit of that journey, and we've remained close, and I've saw so much and learned so much.
So much about stress
from
management.
you. Well, yeah, man. Like, wow, like seriously, 2.5 years down the line, your energy feels like you've got it you've got it by the balls, in a sense. Like
Confidence, man. It's all about the confidence.
Well, confidence can only I reckon confidence, this is why I like apprenticeship. Real confidence, not bullshit, which is what I think a lot of, I did, a lot of bullshit. It's like, real confidence comes through repetition, and there's no getting around that.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
There's no faking your way. It's like, you can't until you've done it.
You know what you were saying before about like fascination with DNA and how that's structured your dissertation in your third year, your impetus to do the third year. It's the same with any aspect of educational learning. It's like to be a lecturer. Yeah, I was terrified when I first started. I thought I knew the subject. I thought, it's fresh in your memory, you've got it down, you understand, there's some elements of it you're really strong with. Then I came to doing my first few classes, my first few lessons.
What was it like? Describe your first class. You've never done that to it for me.
Okay, right. First class was basically, it was an introduction to tree biology. So the first class was all about the history of where plants came from, how they evolved.
Were you teaching the start of a new year?
Yeah, this was fresh new in September. It wasn't fresh students.
Okay.
That was the interesting thing. It was my very first class was a second year level 3 group. So the old qualifications, the way they used to do them, it was split across 2 years, was a level 3. They ended up with what they call a sitting guilds level 3 extended diploma in arboriculture.
Yeah.
So for those of you wondering, level 3 qualifications are the equivalent of A levels. So a level 2 is the equivalent of a GCSE, or secondary education in most parts of the world. Again, it would be a bit of an odd crossover in the States.
Well, yeah.
So, my first lesson was with a group of lads who had experience with the more established lecturers.
Yeah.
And I came across quite young by comparison to some of the other lecturers that were there. The age range of some of the others, certainly in the way that they put themselves across, as I learned, not necessarily an actual age.
Yeah.
I thought this is going to give a slightly different dynamic. They'll either respond to me, or they'll have no confidence in me because of my age and my appearance at the time. But yeah, I remember strolling into this class thinking, right, I've got an idea, I've got some materials to use. I didn't have all my own materials, it was just what had already been done on PowerPoints and presentations. And I thought, yeah, you know what, I've read around this, I can get this, I know how plants evolved, I know where trees eventually came into the equation, whereabouts roughly in the millennia they appeared, and like where the lineage was up to our sort of more common broadleaves that we see now. And I was shocked. They were all very polite, they were a nice bunch of lads, class size was relatively small, there was 14 students in it at the time. And I thought, I'm going to lecture them. I'm going to do what I'm doing now. I'll talk. I will be the cult of personality when I walk in there. They will be eating out the palm of my hand. And I will be enthusiastic, and I'll change my tempo, and I'll give it all this.
When we said about confidence.
Yeah, I portrayed the confidence, and that's what got me the job in the first place, was the fact that the interview, they're like, wow, you seem to have loads of confidence in this, you ooze it. And it was like, yes, it's because I'm frightened. That's why. It's my defence, is this.
No, to be fair, you are quite confident socially and oratorily. You are. So that can also be a curse in a sense. That can be a bit of a curse because obviously.
It can, because people will hang off your words.
Yeah.
They will hang off you going.
And they think, this guy can handle anything.
Yeah.
We're all bloody human at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, and it's
so you're in there. You're confident. You go to the front of the class.
I introduce myself. I tell them a little bit about myself, who I am. That I welcome to the first session. It's my first year as a teacher. This is my first class.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, let's get into this. Let's begin. So I started out with a question posed to them.
Oh, hang on.
Then, do you want me to wait for a few
Yeah, because that'll be well loud on this. Sorry, that was the coffee machine. Not that we're in a pub.
No, of course not. This is careful, it's at stage.
No, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, so basically, I was like, right, well, get into this. And I asked them, so what is the plan? I got a couple of shy answers from a couple of the students. And I was like, okay, great. So, okay, where do we think trees evolve from? And then I started to carry on talking. Then I started to pick up tempo and speed. And then I was asking them questions. Then I wasn't waiting for an answer from them for the questions. I wasn't giving them time to think about what I'd just asked them or what I'd said. There was no pause. Then it was next slide. Then it was a slide after. And then all of a sudden I saw a slide that I don't remember being in that PowerPoint. I don't remember the presentation. I was suddenly there thinking, wait a minute. Why have I got this particular slide here? I'm sure that wasn't there yesterday. This is a lesson in preparation, guys. Anybody who is thinking of producing any kind of a lecture for anyone on anything that they think they know the topic on, don't do it after thinking that you will be able to wing it off the cuff.
I think that the driving force.
That was the driving force.
No matter what will happen, I'll wing it.
Yeah, my driving force was I've got enough knowledge of both these people.
Yeah.
That I will be able to field any questions they ask.
Interesting.
And I'll be able to talk them through the notes in the lecture of what I'm supposed to cover. I very quickly realised that at level 3, they're not degree students. These are not like what me or you were when we went.
Of course.
We would sit there happily through a lecture being presented by a knowledgeable person who would maybe give you the opportunity for questions every so often, but predominantly they were lecturing.
And we were all...
It was didactic.
We were older, we were... Not that all those students weren't...
Yeah, there was a range, wasn't there?
We had some life experience.
Yeah, there was maturity.
And we came in with maturity, I mean, to a certain degree. There's only so mature that arboricultural students will ever be.
Yeah, that's so very true, and I got that down now. I teach the level that I previously studied.
Having gone through that course, when I did it, it was still the 2 years, but you did a year in industry in the middle. They stopped doing that, which I think was the biggest mistake they could have ever done. But it was a funding issue; they didn't want to stop it. But
yeah, that's very true.
And there was also a lot of students not coming back.
Yeah,
they go and get a job for a year and they don't come back. But that at 18, a year in industry changed my life. Anyway, the mental age. I've always been a bit of a, me and Wes get on. We like to talk and explore, deep issues. Yeah, when you go into when you're 17 and you go into a lesson full of 17-year-old Teresa, there's not a huge amount of people you crack on with when you want to talk about deep philosophy.
Yeah, you don't. You might be lucky. You might find the one other weirdo that's in there.
Which I did.
Exactly.
I love the one other weirdo that I did. That was back then. But basically, it was like you can imagine young lads wanting to climb trees and chop things down.
Yeah.
High energy, balls are kind of like.
No fear in them.
No fear.
Don't.
A lot of competitiveness.
Yeah, it is.
A tribal mentality.
Very bravado, very much.
Yeah,
it's your typical high school mentality for most sports-induced lads. It is sadly, it's a highly male-orientated industry. It's changing. There's a lot of promotion going towards women, and we do occasionally. We've last 2 years that taught. And technically, the first year taught did have a female student, but we've always managed to get one female student in on all the levels.
Yeah.
The degree tends to attract more female students. We normally end up with a couple on that.
Did we have a? I feel like I'm recognising. Oh, was it just? I'm just thinking of Rachel and Amy, but they were on horticulture.
Yeah, Rachel and Amy were two females, but they were doing horticulture. I don't think we actually did have a female. I think it was exclusively male. Our degree.
That was a unique bunch for the. Now the degree level is a completely different story. Completely different.
Oh
story.
yeah.
So you've gone in. You've had this first lesson, and
I was being observed this first lesson as well, which was nice. Yeah, by two observers.
Two observers on the first lesson. Now, interestingly,
that was great.
Did you get a chance to shadow anyone beforehand?
No. My introduction to education and to teaching was complete trial by fire.
So it was two people observing you doing something you'd never done before.
Doing something I've never had. I have literally my sole experience in teaching prior to this amounted to helping out some of my fellow students with questions about Minitab, a statistics program, when we were doing that on the course. Occasionally helping each other equally with idents and making sure we understood what we'd just covered in the lessons.
Yeah.
And
basically being a student.
Yeah, being a student, a friendly, approachable student, but a student nonetheless.
Student, yeah.
And then for my interview, doing a 15-minute mini-teach that was on risk assessments. It was worlds apart when you suddenly got to carry this 90-minute session.
So what was the feedback at the end of that lesson?
Feedback at the end of the lesson, to cut that sort of tale a little bit shorter, was generally that I handled it well. The feedback was positive by the two. One was my tutor for Cert Ed, doing their first informal observation of me, because she was an ATP at the time, an advanced teaching practitioner. And the other was my mentor who is the gentleman who coaxed me into the job.
Yeah.
I'll keep his name out of this for now. I'm sure it will come up to some later dates. It was that I handled it well. Relaxed. You could tell that you were getting a little bit nervous at points and flustered. Did you get shocked by the slides? Was one of the questions. I was like, yes, because even though I'd checked through this, I'd forgotten a couple of the slides. It's not my materials. Yep, this is what happens. It's why it's important to develop your own materials.
Okay, so this was quite constructive then.
Oh yeah, it was. It was very constructive.
And I bet so. From their point of view, it's this guy's first time, and he has handled himself well. They're impressed. How do you think you've done?
I'm a harsh critic of myself.
You're the only person here who's critical on themselves. It's very difficult to
always play myself down. It's like, even if I've done something fantastically well, my answer will be, I did all right. It was okay. Wise and wherefore, that could be a low self-confidence when I was younger, and I've learnt modesty as a result.
Yeah. You could Freud that up.
That's a whole separate line of conversation to go down.
Right.
But I felt personally, I was like, I've done all right. I've survived it. This was not what I would have called my strongest lesson, or what I didn't expect to be one of my strongest lessons. I thought, tree biology, I know it enough, but it's an area that I always wanted to go back and study more and learn more about. I didn't really feel I learned it well enough to start with after the course. So
that's basically.
But that was my first.
That's
ever
the first
experience.
lesson.
Yeah.
And I spoke to you a few times over that year, and I saw a big amount of stress.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was like hell on earth.
It is a very stressful environment. It's a very stressful job. Not 24/7, you know, every day of the year, like, but it's a high stress environment because you've got so many things to do.
It's odd.
Like it doesn't. Your day doesn't really start at 8 and finish at 5. It's, you know what I mean. Well, if it's got to be done, it starts.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I would say, if this picks up any listeners and we do end up with more people interested in this and they want to know more, I would say post a comment and say whether you'd like the honest truth as to what teaching's like. Any educator. For any of you that go on Reddit, you'll be able to find the Our Teachers thread and just get a glimpse into what it's like. It's all true.
I've got to say that
Or I can give you the PC version of it where, yes, like Tom says, you do have to work around the hours. You have what seems like quite a small amount of contact time. You might do 20 odd hours, or some people don't even have 20 hours of actual contact with students in classroom time, and people think that's the job. It's not. Your contract is gibberish.
I actually felt really quite bad for I was a terrible student in secondary school, awful. And to any teachers who may for some reason be watching this, I'm sorry. Like honestly, after being, I know that I was a frustrated young angry man, but I now know your life is much more difficult than I thought it was. Just certain lecturers, I could probably have been much nicer. And much less harsh. But when you sit on that side of the fence, you don't see it until you see it.
First thing I ever did, and it's funny you mentioned about lecturers, person that's now my colleague, this person, I think I gave quite a critical time of, as a student, commenting on their tuition.
Yeah.
And I was not very forgiving. This person was quite new at tutoring. They'd had industry experience, they'd had a relevant degree, all the rest. And obviously Tom knows who we're talking about because he had the exact same tutor, and I think it was a shared view a lot of us had at the time. And this person, we gave a lot of the brunt of issues with. There was elements of the tuition that didn't seem to powder you up with some of the others.
They became the source of all frustrations there may have been with the course, despite the fact that as the new tutor, this person had all the worst things placed on them. And as a result, like the things none of the more experienced.
So
we've what happened? We ran out of battery about maybe about 2 hours ago, maybe a bit more,
and then decided to have a different conversation.
The conversation was going very well, but I think we made a good progress. We talked about arboriculture. We experimented with creating a video as a blog, and I think the conversation was good. And maybe it's just the first one. If even one person says I'd see another one,
we'll do another, and we'll get other people.
We might do it anyway.
Yeah. I'd be all for doing this again, definitely, regardless.
So, thank you very much for joining us. This was Wes Hall.
And this was Tom Robinson.
This is Adventure Now. Thank you.
Peace out.